Bobo is here on uh, an immigrant asylum status from a place in Africa that will be undisclosed because there's some danger. Uh, but tell me a little bit, like, how did he get out of Africa, and how did you two cross paths?
Well, that's correct. There's still a little bit of worry until his family gets here. I mean, the damage is probably done because, I've talked about it before, but he was peacefully protesting in his country and was arrested and basically beaten and tortured and got released, but then got word that they were maybe going to come back for him again. And so his wife and him decided the best thing for him to do was just to try to get out of his country. So he made it to a neighboring country and eventually made it to the U.S. on a visitor's visa, and then applied for asylum once he got here. And he had no legal representation at all. He had no idea what to do other than he had applied for asylum. And so 5 years passed when I happened to cross paths with him while I was walking my dogs in my neighborhood. Literally, he was carrying like 6 bags of groceries as a side gig, trying to make some extra money. And I mean, I can picture the whole thing like it happened yesterday. He literally stopped as I was walking down and said, "Oh, excuse me, sir," and let me pass with my dogs. And he was so polite and hustling, and immediately my brain started spinning, and it just seemed like there was something about him. And I rounded the corner out of sight from him, and something just made me stop on a dime, turn around, ran back up the hill, and I caught him right as he was getting ready to drive away, knocked on his window, and he rolled down his window. I thought, when I get these ideas that people are going to think I'm crazy, I said, "Excuse me, I know it sounds crazy, but, are you by chance looking for a job?" Because usually when you see an Uber driver or DoorDash, they either are looking for a job or they're doing that for extra money. And sure enough, he was. I ended up hiring him, and then he immediately became the best employee I have. I have 100 some employees. And then once I was working with him, I just, in casual conversation, said, "Hey, Bobo, what's your story? Where'd you come from?" And that's when the floodgates opened, and he told me that he had applied for asylum but was just waiting aimlessly, and it had been 5 years since he'd seen his wife and his daughter. And I just simply said, "Well, let me look into it. Maybe I can try to help you." Did a Facebook post, told people the story, and immediately had a handful of lawyers or friends of lawyers reach out. And a high school friend of mine reached out with a local firm, put me in touch with them. And that's basically how the whole process started. We got him legal representation. They didn't take the case pro bono, which we had hoped. So, somebody had to pay for it. And that's basically me. And 2 years later, which was April of this year, his asylum was approved. So now he has legal status in the U.S., which was the key. And then once he got that, he was able to apply to have his wife and child here. And they were approved, and now they're coming here next month. So
that's amazing. And how long have they been apart?
It'll be, I didn't know the dates. I've been saying 7, 8 years, but it will be basically 7 years and a month since he left and has last seen them in person. His daughter was 5 years old, and now, she's be 12 and a half.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
No. Can you imagine? I mean, neither one of us with kids can imagine that.
No, it's awful, but the situation is awful, but it sounds like it's turning into a pretty happy ending. In fact, you started just with an inquiry, like, how can I help? And it's really snowballed. It hasn't. I mean, it's like a runaway train now.
Yeah. So we're like an avalanche.
What's going on now?
Right. So now we're, I wanted, the goal was to get him legal status, then to get his wife and daughter here, and then to make their arrival as seamless and as worry-free as we could. And he was living in like somebody's basement on just a terrible place for all these years. So we secured him a 2-bedroom apartment, and then and actually, I mean, of course, I had all this in my brain to want to help him, but it's been suggested by everybody else, like, hey, set up a GoFundMe. Hey, can we buy him supplies? So that's what I did, and I started a wish list on Amazon, and we've literally purchased. I mean, from his beds to his dressers to his couch, his TV, computers for his daughter, glasses, cups for his kitchen, scrub daddies, I mean, utensils, towels, everything from top to bottom.